Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Hey guys, just a quick heads up in the editing room. As I rewatched this footage, I realized that there are sections of the audio that turn my voice very robotic. So please enjoy Robot Eric giving sections of his casual retrospective. Hello everyone and welcome to another casual retrospective. This is the second retrospective that I did. The first one being Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is the second one because I just finished reading and watching Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This is your one spoiler warning because I will just be going off script and talking about anything Harry Potter related. So I'll be talking about all the books, all the movies. If you haven't read and watched them all, please do so before watching this video. That is your one warning. So I guess we'll just start talking about the Dursleys because that's how the book and movie start. I never really got why the Dursleys wanted to keep Harry in their house forever, you know, like they put bars on his windows, and they really didn't want him going off to Hogwarts even the second year. They keep him in there, and I never really got why they felt inclined to just keep him a prisoner in their house if they hated him so much. Like, surely they would just want him to be like out of there every season besides summer when he'd have to come home. But like, wouldn't you want Harry to be out of the house if you hate him so much, if you like just really don't want to feed him or anything like that? And I have to wonder why they're not more afraid that if they were to keep Harry in their house instead of going to Hogwarts, that he wouldn't send someone like Hagrid after them again. And I know that Dumbledore sent them a letter when Harry was first born and dropped at their doorstep. Dumbledore put like a little letter with them saying basically like, hey, take care of Harry, like, or else, you know. And it doesn't really touch on that letter until much later in the book, so maybe I'll be corrected by the time we get to that. But I gotta wonder if they're, surely Aunt Petunia is afraid of Dumbledore, and surely they would just, yeah, get out of here, go to Hogwarts kind of thing. So it just seems odd to me that they would put bars on his windows. Autumn gave a pretty good point where she said they don't want him to get stronger in magic, but he's already like magically inclined to use magic. Like he used magic even before he went to Hogwarts, and I feel like maybe like the Dursleys don't seem like they're that in control of they don't seem that thoughtful about this kind of stuff, especially magic. They fear it a lot. Any reasonable person would figure, hey, just maybe if he controls his magic, we'll be safer, you know, but the Dursleys don't seem that, maybe that reasonable. So maybe that's why they do it. Maybe they just think, hey, this will hurt him the most. He ruined my sales pitch to sell drills to this guy. This is what's going to hurt him the most. And so maybe that's all they were thinking. There were a lot of cuts and differences in this movie. I have to wonder, as we go along each book, the books are getting longer, thicker, there's a lot more detail in it, and the length of the movie stays relatively the same. I think we looked it up, this was the longest movie out of all the Harry Potter movies, and so I mean, eventually you gotta cut out more and more stuff as we go along, right? And so the first one I felt was actually pretty faithful to the book. This one takes out a couple of things. For instance, when Harry first goes to the Burrow, the Weasleys rescue him in the flying car, they do some tasks around the Burrow, if you remember, and Mrs. Weasley has them de-gnome the garden. So there's these weird little gnome creatures that you gotta pull them out. In the Lego Harry Potter video game, there's a section where you clear out all the garden gnomes, and so I thought it was kind of funny that they included that in the video game, but not the movie. So I gotta wonder if maybe they had that part initially and it was cut. There was also scenes, you know, that like they're practicing the Quidditch and stuff in some tall trees. Another thing that was taken out is when Harry uses the flue powder, he says diagonally and like throws it and appears at Nocturne Alley with the he appears in the shop the Burgess and Burkes. And the Malfoys actually come in, so he ends up hiding in a cabinet, and this is to come in later. He actually hides in the Vanishing Cabinet. And so he's hiding in there, and he watches Lucius, and Lucius has to hide a bunch of dark magic things. He's giving it to the Burgess and Burkes. He's selling it to them, probably just to hold for now, but he's probably like not allowed to resell the Malfoy's dark magic stuff. But it's because the Ministry of Magic is doing raids on his house. And later on, when our gang takes the Polyjuice potion, turns into Crabbe and Goyle, Draco actually says like he still actually has stuff hidden in the mansion. He just can't hide like all of it. So I like to imagine, this probably isn't the case, but I like to imagine that in the 7th book and movie, they keep like Luna Lovegood prisoner underground with like the goblin Griphook. They keep them prisoner like underground. I like to imagine that's where they keep like all their dark magic stuff hidden while the Ministry of Magic comes and raids their house. But that wasn't in the movie. He just appears at Burgess and Burkes, leaves, starts walking around Nocturne Alley, comes across all these shady characters, and that's where Hagrid saves them. There is the Death Day. Nearly Headless Nick has his death day, and that's the day that he died, which was on Halloween, which is actually, Autumn pointed this out, when Harry's parents died too. Coincidence? Yeah, it probably is. But I'll touch on the death day in a second. They also had Lockhart. During the end of the school year, it's February, it's Valentine's Day, stuff is not going well. The Basilisk is going around killing everyone, the Chamber of Secrets has been opened, the teachers are talking about closing Hogwarts once more, but Lockhart doesn't believe any of it. He just laughs it off like they already captured the heir of Slytherin, because he believes that it was Hagrid who initially opened it at first, and the Ministry of Magic came in this book and took him to Azkaban, which we will talk more into depth about into the next book, the next movie. And so he laughs it off. He doesn't believe that we're in any trouble. And to try and cheer everybody up, on Valentine's Day, he dresses up a bunch of dwarfs in little Cupid outfits, like little diaper and bow and stuff, and he has them go around, give little singing Valentines. And I thought that was really fun. And I wonder why. I guess they just didn't want to take the time to like CGI some dwarfs, and I guess it's not exactly super important to the story, I'll say, but it is fun. Actually, in the book, Harry gets one of these singing Valentines, and he's trying to run away from it because he doesn't like to be a celebrity. He doesn't like all this to be the center of attention all the time, even though he is. And so he's running away from this dwarf, and the dwarf tackles him, and that's where he drops the diary, Tom Riddle's diary, and that's how Ginny found out that he was in possession of the Tom Riddle diary that she threw away in the toilet, which doesn't really make sense to me. Like, the diary's way too big to be flushed anyway. I don't know what she was thinking. Maybe she thought it would, like, disintegrate in the poop water or something like that. She tried to flush the Tom Riddle's diary. But that's how she found out that Harry had it. But in the movie, it's just, I've been ransacked. The diary's missing. Tom Riddle's diary is missing. But it never really touched on how Ginny knew that Harry had Tom Riddle's diary. I guess we could just chalk it up to, like, maybe Ron told Ginny that he had it or something like that. Lockhart is my favorite wizard. Okay, he's not my favorite wizard, but I always found him very humorous, very funny. I just like how much of a heartthrob he is, how cocky he is, but he didn't earn any of that necessarily. But I like how, like, Hermione has a little bit of a crush on him, and Miss Weasley gets hot and bothered around him and stuff. I like that he's such a ladies' man that answers fan mail. He's a very funny and interesting character in the wizarding world that doesn't really have celebrities like this on this scale, you know? He's just such a hot shot, and he didn't deserve it. And I like how they didn't really touch on this much in the movie, but Colin Creevey, the first year, who's always taking pictures, and he's just, like, obsessing over Harry. He's just so new to this all. He's so enthusiastic. And Lockhart always comes in at, like, the worst time when, like, Colin is asking for Harry's autograph and stuff, and Lockhart he like, takes Harry under his wing and, Harry, you can't just go signing autographs just like that. You gotta, you really gotta earn it, and then you'll get there someday. He really takes up Harry as his ward, as his apprentice, even though Harry doesn't want it, and I thought that was very humorous. I like how I actually do like that he's really good at memory terms, and he really used it to be a bad guy. And just the whole plot about how he wrote all those books, like uh, bantering with the Banshee. He always has these books that start with the same letter, which is really fun. It kind of reminds me of the magic treehouse books. Did I get that right? Like diving with the dolphins. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. But Lockhart, he's really funny because he steals all those stories from the people and then does a memory charm on them to make them forget it. And so I like how he ends up being a really bad guy, but then gets his just desserts. It's very satisfying in that way. Another professor that is not really touched on in the movie is Professor Binns. And I like the idea of non-human professors at Hogwarts. It kind of keeps things interesting. And Professor Binns is a history of magic teacher, but he's a ghost. And it's not exciting like that, though, because he's just really boring. He just really drones on. Then the war between the goblins and the witch. He's really boring. And that is actually who Hermione asks about the Chamber of Secrets. Not Professor McGonagall in the movie, but she asked Professor Binns, and normally most people don't pay attention to him. But in the book, she asks him about it, and everyone's just like all in. They're invested because we're learning about the Chamber of Secrets for the first time, and he's just so taken aback because he's not really sure. He's almost annoyed that everyone is just super involved in what he has to say. It's kind of funny that way, but not in the movie. I talked about this just a second ago, Death Day. So Harry, he drags in a bunch of mud from a Quidditch practice because they're practicing really hard, and he drags in all this mud, and Filch is really, he's really cranky. He doesn't like students. He doesn't like mess. And Harry is in danger of being in detention from Filch. And this is also where we find out that Filch is a squib. This is a person born in a magical family who doesn't have any magical powers, which kind of makes sense. It kind of makes you get in his head a little bit, figure out why Filch is so cranky. It makes you pity him and sympathize with him, and he really actually does want to learn, as we find out from a book to it's like an infomercial, train you how to learn magic, even if you aren't magically inclined. And so it kind of makes you pity him. But anyway, Nearly Headless Nick, he commits this piece to do a distraction, so Filch isn't mad at Harry anymore. He's mad at Peeves, and that's how Harry gets out of detention. And so Harry's like, what can I do to make it up to you? Thank you so much. And Nearly Headless Nick is like, well, on Halloween, you can come to my death day. It's like a party on the day that I died, like a birthday, and I'm inviting the Headless Horsemen to come, and maybe you can talk to them and say why I should be part of the Headless Hunt, because Nearly Headless Nick, when he died, he got his head didn't get cleanly cut off, so he wasn't able to join the Headless Hunt. And the Headless Hunt is like this crew of these they're very jockey, very boisterous guys, and Nearly Headless Nick wants to join them, but they keep on denying his request because he's not completely headless. And so he's hoping Harry will talk to them and convince them to let him join. And the Death Day is pretty interesting because it's all these ghosts. This is actually where we first meet Moaning Myrtle, by the way. And it has all this old, rancid food because the taste is so pungent. Ghosts say they can, nearly taste it. They can kind of taste it because it's so strong. It almost makes them feel alive. So it's really a bad Halloween for the gang, unfortunately. But in the movie, it doesn't happen. They just kind of write that off, which I was pretty bummed out about. This is also, after the party, I believe, this is also where we see Miss Norris hanging by the chandelier. She's petrified, and this is where we find the writing, enemies of the air, beware. And I always wondered, I thought it was interesting why Miss Norris was hanging by the tail. And this kind of led me down this whole rabbit hole of trying to think of who is controlling the basilisk. At this time, Tom Riddle's spirit, it resides in the diary, and it can control the basilisk, the creature in the Chamber of Secrets. Really, it's only one chamber. It's just Chamber of Secret, right? There's only one secret in there, but I'm getting sidetracked. Tom Riddle's ghost. Can it control the basilisk right now? Or is it controlling the basilisk via Ginny? So is Ginny controlling the basilisk because she's being possessed by Tom Riddle? And if so, did they plan for the snake to paralyze Miss Norris. Obviously, they wanted it to kill Miss Norris, but it saw the reflection in the water instead. And we're all very lucky that no one died from looking at the basilisk. There's always cases where they got paralyzed, so that is very, very lucky. But she hung Miss Norris by the tail just to prove a message. I never really got like what the planning was on that. They're like, go paralyze someone and then we'll show it up. And I was wondering like what the thought process and how that all winded up. It certainly is a spooky imagery. Another character that I wanted to talk about was Justin Finch Fletchley. And he's not really in the movie. He does make an appearance. This is the student. He's in Hufflepuff. And while we're learning to duel, Snape and Lockhart are to teach us to duel. Draco shoots out a snake out of his wand. And this is where Harry learns that he's a Parseltongue. And he's accidentally speaking to the snake. And the snake is going up to a student. This is Justin Finch Fletchley. And all the students think that Harry is the one that's goading the snake on to attack Justin. And we actually, in the book, we meet Justin in our first herbology class with the mandrakes. And Justin is kind of this recurring character, and he becomes very skeptical of Harry. He doesn't like Harry at all because he thinks he's the heir of Slytherin. He thinks that Harry goaded the snake on. And later on, Justin does apologize, but it doesn't really talk about him in the movie. He's kind of a reoccurring character in the books, though. I think they really took that spotlight from Justin and gave it all to Colin, who really isn't in the book that much, but I guess he's just a very very good character for the big screen. He's funny, he's enthusiastic, and so we probably like showing off him a lot more. You know, we like peppering in those little jokes to keep things fresh. Talking about the duel, it seems like a lot of spells in the Harry Potter movies just blast you backwards, you know. There's a scene where Snape is training, like Snape and Lockhart, they're training the students how to duel. Snape uses Expelliarmus, and it just launches Lockhart backwards, and he just holds on to his wand the whole time. There's another time, Ron's wand, the whole time Ron's wand is acting weird and wonky because he broke it during the Whomping Willow, and Lockhart gets a hold of it, and he's going to use the memory charm on Ron and Harry, and then it like blasts him backwards, it shoots him backwards, and I guess it's more cinematically, visually better to see magic actually do something rather than just something more mental. You know, I'm not really sure why. And then they would just use spells, and I'm not familiar with the actual spells. It just seems like they're using Latin words, and these spells would just launch them backwards, just a blast to shoot you backwards. I don't know. I just think it's kind of weird that the movies do it that way. Talking about Dobby, people love Dobby. They think that, I guess, like, I feel bad for Dobby, and I want Dobby to have a good life, but it just is, he's just kind of off-putting in a way. They do a little bit better with him in the 7th movie, but he's just kind of annoying, kind of weird creature. But I really can't believe why elf slavery is still a thing. So this takes place in like the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just weird, you know? Like, how is elf slavery legal? Like, elves are clearly smart, sentient creatures, and you're not paying them. You're just forcing them into slavery. And Hogwarts, actually, it touches on this in the 4th book and movie. Not movie, just the book. But Hermione goes on this whole thing about spew, and I can't remember what it stands for. But Hermione finds out about elf slavery, and it's all about like trying to free all the elves. And as we read it, as the audience is reading it, we're just kind of supposed to like roll our eyes with Ron and Harry. But I agree with Hermione. How is elf slavery still a thing? And I think in Hogwarts they're free to go. You don't like in Hogwarts you don't have to get the elves clothes to go away or like to be able to be free, but I don't think they're paid. I think elves are just like fed this belief at the very beginning that they are there to serve the wizards, and so I'll have more to say about this when we get to the 4th book, but it just seems like the elves just want to work and make all that food that magically appears in front of all the students every mealtime. And it's just an interesting thing that slavery is still a thing. And granted, I'm sure only really evil wizards would keep an elf in slavery. Well, I guess the Blacks have that one elf as a slave too, so maybe it's just commonplace in the wizarding world. talking about on the topic of elves, in the book and movie, Harry asks for Tom Riddle's diary that is destroyed, and Dumbledore says, "Yes, go ahead, take the diary." And then he gives it to Lucius, and there's a sock hidden inside, and Lucius gives it to Dobby, and that's how Dobby becomes free. But it never really touches on the whereabouts of the diary afterwards. Like, I guess Dobby like throws it to the floor or something like that, and that's how Dumbledore gets it back in possession. But later on, when Dumbledore gets really invested into the idea of Horcruxes, he has the diary in his possession at the time. So somehow, I think Dumbledore was able to acquire the diary afterwards. But I was always under the impression that he gave it to Lucius at the end of the book and movie. But I guess Lucius just tossed it aside. But I have to wonder if Lucius knows about Horcruxes at this time. He was obviously very close to Voldemort, and so I wonder why. It just seems like something that Lucius would hold on to, being so closely tied to the Dark Lord. They never really do get to finish a Quidditch Cup, do they? They might later on, but it seems like right now, it seems near the end of the school year, there's always a disaster that happens, and Wood, he can never win that Quidditch Cup. He is as motivated as he is. He just wants to win Quidditch. For some reason, Quidditch always gets canceled. The Chamber of Secrets gets opened. There's like Dementor attacks. Something always happens. They're only able to play like 2 or 3 matches at the most of Quidditch, it seems, before it's canceled. I could be misremembering, and as we go along, maybe we will finally win the Quidditch Cup. I can't remember if we ever do or not, though. I do like how Ginny is portrayed in the book. In the movie, she's not really touched on until near the end. But in the book, it kind of always talks about how anxious she looks. She is always looking very nervous. And as we're reading this, we think that Ginny's just a really anxious, nervous first-year girl. You know, she's not really in her element yet. She doesn't really get Hogwarts. But in reality, she's just like being possessed by Tom Riddle and this diary. And I really like that, those little touches that we have whenever we read Harry Potter books. It's always like those throwaway lines that come in later, you know? Like when all gets revealed, we're like, oh yeah, you know, we did read that happened, and it all comes together. And I really like that style of writing that J.K. Rowling has. The car, another thing that comes together, you know, the car, it crashes into the Whomping Willow, and I really like how the car is, like, alive, and the car can think, you know, it's, like, smart enough. When it crashes, it gets out of the Whomping Willow, it throws all of their bookcase, like their suitcases, it throws Hedwig out before it drives into the Forbidden Forest. And then obviously when we're talking to Aragog, we're about to get attacked by all the spiders, the car comes and rescues them. And I like to believe that the car knows Ron and Harry. It's like, oh, those are my friends, I must go rescue them, because it knows where to go. Like, the book talks about, like, it's going down these pathways, like, it's been down these paths 1,000 times. They're well-worn. So I like to believe, up until this point, when it drives into the Forbidden Forest, it's just wandering the Forbidden Forest, and I'd like to believe that it's just a creature there now. Like, obviously, it doesn't run on gas or anything like that, because it's still running when it comes and rescues Ron and Harry, and I don't think it ever talks about the car ever again. But I like to believe that it just spends the rest of it stays in the Forbidden Forest, and it's happy about that. Like, it's alive, it can think, and it just wants to be in the Forbidden Forest, and it wants to be in the Forbidden Forest forever, and it doesn't want to drive anyone. It's just happy being there. It's just kind of a weird, like, I just like how it just knows to come and rescue Ron and Harry. The requirements to make a basilisk are kind of weird. It's like this egg has to be laid by a hen, and then a toad needs to sit on the egg until it hatches into a basilisk. And the crow of a rooster will kill the basilisk. And I just think it's kind of weird, like, all these requirements in order to create a basilisk. And I think it's weird that she included all that kind of stuff, like telling us how a basilisk is created and what kills a basilisk. Especially when she, in the book, she writes that the roosters were all strangled by Ginny. And obviously I can get why they don't show that in the movie, because it'd be a little macabre. But I just think it's interesting that they say, like, here's how you kill a basilisk. Oh, by the way, you can't kill the basilisk that way because all the roosters are dead. And I guess, I don't know, like, surely there's a rooster somewhere that we could take with us into the Chamber of Secrets. But I guess, I don't know, it's just weird that she added weird little details like that, without it providing any sort of solution. Hagrid is old. Like, the last time the Chamber of Secrets was opened was back when Tom Riddle was there, and he turns Hagrid in. So Hagrid is currently a student 50 years ago. That makes Hagrid, in his 60s. And whenever I watch the movie, I don't think of Hagrid that old. I think maybe, like, late 30s, kind of 40s age, maybe, like, late 40s. But he's, like, in his 60s. He is an old guy. And Autumn brought up a pretty good point about Hagrid, is once Hagrid was proven innocent, we now know that it was Tom Riddle. He was the heir of Slytherin who opened up the Chamber of Secrets. We know it's not Hagrid. Dumbledore knows it's not Hagrid, and he probably knew even back then, but he had no proof. But now we have proof. And surely there's some sort of like GED equivalent of Hogwarts to let Hagrid have his magic back and a wand. Because currently, Hagrid just has splinters of his wand and his pink umbrella, and he always has to keep his like magic using a secret, even after the events of Chamber of Secrets, and that is why he is initially expelled and not allowed to use magic. So it just seems weird that he doesn't really get this retribution. He doesn't get proven innocent after he gets taken out of Azkaban at the end of the movie and book. And it just, I don't know. I just want Hagrid to be able to use magic again, because he deserves it. He was framed. I like the message that this book and movie have, where, so Harry is a Horcrux, unknowingly, and that's why he possesses a lot of abilities that Voldemort has, because he has a part of Voldemort inside him. That's why he can speak Parseltongue. That's why he kind of has like a strange aura around him, right? And so he was initially, the Sorting Hat wanted to put him in Slytherin. He said no. He wants to be in Gryffindor. And I like the messaging that Dumbledore has at the end of the book and movie, where it's really about our choices that make who we are, and not necessarily our abilities. It's freeing in that way that we are not just stuck to be whoever we are meant to be. We can choose to do and act however we want. So, if we really want to be a better person, I like the messaging that we can if we strive to be a better person. It's kind of like gushy, kind of sugary, but I really like the idea of that and the messaging that they have behind Harry choosing to be in Gryffindor instead of Slytherin. I can never get Moaning Myrtle's voice right. I whenever I read the books, I try to do the voices. Moaning Myrtle it's impossible. You can always share a toilet with me when you die, Harry. I can't get the voice right. It's so bad. It is so bad. Moaning Myrtle, she's a fun character. I like that she is a reoccurring character. She's enjoyable. I just can't get that voice right, and I have no idea how that actress does it. Fox is kind of a weird creature. Like, I really like the idea of phoenixes. I just don't like how it is portrayed in the movie. It kind of looks like a weird Jim Henson's Labyrinth kind of puppet. It looks very skinny, parrot kind of creature, ostrich, and that's not really what I think of when I think of a phoenix. And I like all the abilities of this phoenix. Fox saves the day pretty much. Like, it claws the eyes out of the basilisk, which Harry could never have defeated if all he had to do was look at Harry and Harry dies. He heals Harry after he was bitten by the Fang. Its tears have healing powers. It apparently is like super strong and can carry 5 people. At the end of, not at the end, in one of the later movies and books, Dumbledore just disappears with Fox. He claps his hand, and Fox, there's flames everywhere, but I guess I'll talk about that later. But Fox has a lot of cool powers, and I do like that Fox's tail feathers are actually the cores of Voldemort's and Harry's wands. I think that's a really cool detail, and I just like the writing of J.K. Rowling, where everything just, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but everything just ties together. Everything is just so interwoven and interconnected, and it's really fun and rewarding for a Harry Potter fan, because it just feels like every time I read these books, I just get a little, just a little more foreshadowing, a little more detail that it comes to light later on, and it's just fun and so rereadable because you get these little details. It's everything's just so connected in the wizarding world. Definitely liked it better than the first movie and book. I think going forward, I will be like ranking all these. I really love to rank things. So right now it goes Chamber of Secrets, then the Sorcerer's Stone. I'm not sure where Prisoner of Azkaban fits. In my head, it goes Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Sorcerer's Stone. For Autumn, she really likes the Prisoner of Azkaban, I don't think it's her favorite one. But for her, it'll probably be Prisoner of Azkaban is the number one for now. Here she is. What's your favorite book and movie? You have to tie them together though, not separately.
No, I can't do that.
You have to.
No.
Okay, so for right now,
Yeah.
what's your ranking?
For the 2 that we've done?
Yeah.
Chamber of Secrets, Sorcerer's Stone.
So we're saying right now. I think we should go read chapter 1 right now because I am ready for some Prisoner of Azkaban.
If Ziggy will let us.
What about you, Ziggy?
Let's do it, Dad!
Ziggy likes the Sorcerer's Stone better because it has Fluffy, the 3-headed dog, whereas this just had Fang once in the Forbidden Forest. And as much as Ziggy likes Fang, he likes Fluffy a lot better. So
3 times more dog to love.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you guys later. My family's here. Okay, bye!